Okay. I'm calling to order tonight's Board of Adjustments meeting on June the 19th, 2023 for the city of Covington. Roll call, please.
Ms. Butler?
Here.
Mr. Huval?
Here.
Mr. Cunningham?
Here.
Mr. Himes? Absent. Ms. Williams?
Here. Okay, the commissioners have received the minutes from the last meeting in their packets earlier. So do I hear any additions or corrections or deletions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented to us. Roll call, please.
Ms. Butler?
Oh, second by Mr.
Second.
Second.
Sorry. Okay, so yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Huval?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes. We've had a request from one of our applicants. He has a personal issue, and he'd like to move his case from, what is he, number 3?
4.
Number 4 to number 1. Do any of the commissioners have any problems with this? Hearing none, we're going to jump to case number 4. Is it 3 or 4?
I know, right?
I'm sorry. It's too hot to think. Okay, so case number 22-06-11 BOA, requesting variance from Appendix B, Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, Part 3, Use District, Section 3.8 RSL, Single Family Residential, Existing Small Lots, 3.806 for Performance Standards, Front Yard Setbacks, Building Line to be returned from 15 feet to 5 feet for Lot 10A, Square 2908, Municipal Address 1025 West 30th Avenue, Covington, Louisiana, St. Tammany Parish. Municipal address again is 1023 West 30th Avenue. And the petitioner is Mr. Burns. Would you step forward, Mr. Burns, and state your name and address into the mic?
Brian Burns, 127 West Ruel Drive in Mandeville, 70471. And thank you for granting the request to alter the order of the agenda. I appreciate it. Would you like me to?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, the letter that accompanied my application sets forth the reasoning behind this. We've got a physical hardship issue with this lot that borders Mile Branch Bayou. The rear portion of it has eroded into the banks of the bayou, and it's a very small lot. To be able to get our house footprint on it, we rotated the house 90 degrees to get the shorter side to make it easier, but it's still not enough. We need to move it forward into the front lot setback, and we've requested that that 15-foot minimum setback on the front be reduced, in our case, to 5 feet for this lot so we can accommodate it.
That current location, when I went to look at it, has a really tremendously deep ditch in front of it. Are you planning to fill the ditch and move the house forward, or is you going to set it 5 feet from that ditch?
You know, it's a surprisingly wide thoroughfare there. There's actually a 60-foot right-of-way, so where our lot starts is quite a ways back from the edge of the pavement, so I believe it's on the other side of that ditch.
There were cars parked on that street when I went to look at it, and it was hard for me to turn around. It was almost impossible because it was a dead end.
Yes.
And the ditch was the problem. I didn't want to go in the ditch on either side. So you're asking to bring it forward to 5 feet from the
Property
city
line.
side of the ditch, or the other side of the ditch, right?
Correct.
Okay. Do any of the other commissioners have any questions or comments? How big, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, the construction is basically in concert with the rest of the neighborhood, right, what we're talking about? Square footage,
Well, it is in concert with the newer and newly renovated homes in the neighborhood, not so much so with the existing homes that are
yeah,
in
new construction.
substandard condition, yes. It's a 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that we're planning,
With a driveway.
with the driveway. Crushed limestone driveway.
So this is necessitated by virtue of the fact that land has simply eroded because of Mile Branch? Is that what you're saying? That-
Yes, some might say the parish has not kept the Mile Branch Bayou within its banks.
Well-
No, I'm just teasing.
No, but I mean,
That's true.
My question was directed towards, has anything been done to stop it, or is it just going to continue to erode this lot?
I don't have a good answer for that. I don't know whether it will continue or not. I think it's happened over a long period of time.
So if you're looking at the lot, you're talking about the erosion, you would be on the right-hand side, is that correct?
Right rear, that's correct.
Right rear, okay. Anybody want to say anything else? Nothing? Okay. I'm gonna make a motion. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion.
I second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Butler?
Oh, I'm
Approve.
sorry.
To
To
approve.
approve. Yeah, that's what we're not working on. Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, second case on the docket tonight is case number, what was 1, requesting variance from Appendix B, Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance Part 4, General Provisions, Section 4.208, Landscaping and Tree Preservation. All street planning requirements be eliminated to allow for access to the front of the building and safe ADA entry and required parking in the rear of the building. This property currently has municipal address of 1168 North Collins Avenue, Covington, Louisiana, and I think everybody here knows it as Lyon. Okay, so this is, so 1. We have a petitioner here named Ken Jones. That was easy. Mr. Jones, if you'd step to the mic, say your name and your address, please.
Certainly. My name is Ken Jones. I'm an architect and general contractor. Post Office Box 720, St. Francisville, Louisiana. I'm here on behalf of our client who bought this store, and we would like to bring it back up to speed. It's an eyesore. I don't think anybody behind me is going to argue that point, nor anybody in front of me. But our client would like to do something with the property. The case in point is that the landscape ordinance truly impacts this because the right-of-way for the highway department comes all the way up to the curb in the parking lot now. And if you recall, the property has 2 driveways, but DOTD is going to require us to eliminate one of them. So now we're to the north side driveway only. So when you pull into the property, instead of heading straight onto the building, you have to go to the next driveway and make a half-pin turn to the right to go through the drive-through. But the biggest hardship, I think, as indicated in the petition, is that of the ADA parking. In order to put the landscaping per your ordinance, it wipes out the whole parking in front of the building, including the ADA parking. Now, yes, perhaps you could put the ADA parking behind the building, but now you have vehicular circulation issues where the person, handicapped accessible parking space is now going to be competing with people driving around the building and deliveries, because remember, we only have one driveway, and everything's going to come in and out of that north driveway. So I would tell you that if we would be so kind of you to allow us a variance on the landscaping, what we could do is go back to our landscape architect, and he and I have discussed this. Instead of putting landscape on the front of the property and killing all the parking spaces, we have enough land on the south side that we could put landscaping down the parking lot, the driveway, down the right side. That would soften up the building from the north side approach.
And that would be very visible from the street?
The landscaping would be visible from the street. It would soften up that south elevation.
While I understand the hardship, I sort of have a problem with the fact that eradication of all greenery in the front of the building would then again just,
Well,
there's very little there now, but there once used to be, I think, you know.
well,
Long
that's
time ago.
before the DOTD came
Right,
through
right.
and took the property. And that's what was left, our client as the resultant of the highway department coming through.
Mhm.
For the expansion of Collins, yeah. I need the commission.
And our client's not asking to increase the size of the building. This is about a 5,000 square foot building. It was a Chinese restaurant. This is going to be a Mexican tienda. The clients have a similar operation in Hammond. They won't want to open up here as well. If you do consider the variance, if you direct me to what you would like us to do with the landscaping down the south side, we could submit that to the city.
Are you, and the owner, are you commenting on, or basing this on full capacity, or is this just normal, the parking spaces that you need? In other words, you know, in and out traffic is one thing, but you said you need more parking spaces, is that correct?
Well, we would be eliminating all the parking in front of the building if the landscape ordinance is. That's the only way we could achieve the parking requirement.
In the back?
Excuse me. That's the only way we could achieve the landscaping provision, is to eliminate all the parking in front of the building.
So as you come off of Collins Boulevard, if the landscaping ordinance is enforced, all the parking on that side of the building?
But, oh, yeah, that's the front of the building.
That's the front, right?
All you would have is a driveway now to come across the front of the building and turn right to go to the drive-through window.
So right
Or
now,
you could park.
you've got parking on the right side and left side of that driveway. All you would have left would be the driveway that would come head on to the building and
There is no parking on the south side of the building. It's in the front of the building now
Right.
and behind the building.
Right, right. And right now, the way it's configured, the drive into that building, you've got parking on the right side of the drive.
Oh,
and the left
yes,
side.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking the front, but it would be,
And all you would have left, if the ordinance is enforced, would be a drive through there. And you
That-
have to go around the building to get to the back.
that's correct.
Which is what's depicted in this sketch, right? Where the,
Mhm.
comes off of Collins to the left, right? Or to the
Right,
west,
to the west.
to the
yeah.
west.
And so you're proposing us giving you a variance, leaving that parking configured as it is on the front side of that.
Yes, and we'd be glad to do some landscaping.
On the south side.
Uh,
And
that-
closer to the building? Could you put landscaping up close to the building as well?
If, what we might be able to do is to rob one of those parking spaces. I don't want to do anything with the ADA. But perhaps what we could do is, instead of putting the landscape buffer across the front, is maybe we could take two of the parking spaces, flanking either corner of the building, and soften it up that way. I think that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
I think that I could get on board with something like that, but just
Yeah.
total eradication of any greenery whatsoever on a street that's already kind of not real attractive, I think that would just be adding to the problem that currently exists. So if you're willing and to do that, to soften up, that sort of,
I think that would be
and
quite
you think the owner
acceptable
would be
compromise.
amenable to that, right?
He's here, I could arm wrestle him, but
Hey.
are you good at that? Are you good about?
Sure.
Identify yourself, please.
My name is Martin Salgado, the owner of the building. I want to add that there's currently, right now, some landscaping,
Yeah,
but if we go with the ordinance, it's not only going to take the current parking in the front, it's going to add on to, I don't know if you ever seen the building, but in front, there is some, like an area where there was landscaping Well, with the ordinance, I think it wants 15 feet, if I'm not mistaken. So, right, so right now, there's about 5 feet of landscaping. So we go with the ordinance, it's gonna add on to that. So it'll encroach onto the parking. That's the problem. We could still add landscaping to the little pad that's there now. There's a pretty long pad where there was prior landscaping. We could fix all that up and make it look nice, and there will still be room for parking in the front of the building, which is what I really want, to have some parking in the front, not everything in the back, because in the type of business that I do, there's a lot of garbage, there's grease trap, there's a lot of stuff that belongs in the back of a building, and it really mess up my business if I would only have access to the back of the building, where customers would have to only have to park in the back. So I want to keep the parking in the front for handicap spots and extra spots, but there is landscaping now. If we eradicate the landscape ordinance, it's just eradicating the fact that it wants 15 feet. But there is some now that we could, fix up real nice. That's what I wanted to add, that it's not gonna take off everything.
Right, yeah. You understand where I'm coming from.
Right, you don't want us to
I don't
not
want
have
just,
anything.
you have your restaurant there and
Correct,
there's
correct.
nothing there
No
to
green.
soften it or
Right.
green.
No, but
Right.
there is currently an
Some,
area.
But it's kind of scratchy.
Well,
No, we'll,
not been
Yeah.
occupied for
it's
quite
bad.
some time.
It's
We
bad.
had that rain.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't gonna just be solid concrete.
No.
things.
We want to basically be able to have parking spaces in the front. And with the current pad that's there, we can fix it nicely. We can, make the building look beautiful. And the side of the building as well. So there would be on the, I don't know what's the right side of the building and the front could have a lot of, landscape.
Yeah,
But we don't want to completely take everything from the front of the building. Just not do 15 feet, which would be
right.
a pretty big, pretty much the whole front of the building would be the
Right.
15 feet.
The variance request was that all street planning requirements be eliminated. So are you proposing something different than that?
No.
We were perhaps offering a compromise,
Right.
and that's to put maybe a landscape island
On the
each-
front,
on each front corner.
plus the softening
okay.
on the side.
That's correct.
Commissioner.
Any other questions?
Commissioner. So I just wanted to call your attention to the reason it was stated as all landscaping requirements for street, this back is a street. So it was also going to take up 15 feet of the back parking lot also. So that's why it was all landscaping requirements.
I have a question. If the landscape ordinance was applied and enforced as written, if we use, I'm using this one because it shows the parking in the front, parking in the back,
That-
what would be eliminated
Okay, see that big parking lot?
in the front? This
Yeah.
is Collins Boulevard.
Right. That one right there, that's gone.
That's gone.
DOTD said, that's ours, you can't use it. So we have to take that out. And we have already DOTD approval to start construction once we get our building permit
Okay.
to get that up.
So
What-
those are gone no matter.
Those are gone no matter what.
All right.
But what we want are the front spots directly in front of the building.
Where it's got handicap spots.
Correct, yes.
Okay, you
If
want to
we-
be able to keep those.
Yes.
Sure, yeah. Can you show which is gone, you talking
Yeah, show.
The revoke.
Oh, you want to see? This is gone. Right.
about? Oh, okay, all right.
Okay. And then relative to the back, if the landscaping ordinance was enforced, what would happen in the back to those parking spaces that are now shown on the back?
Oh, the back is, it'll have parking, and I guess they want us to do landscape in the back as well?
Right, but
We'll do the back.
to fully enforce the landscape ordinance, we would have to cut down trees that are already there that we'd like to maintain.
Okay.
We don't want to add more parking spaces in the back, we'd rather just keep the mature trees that are in the back.
Any other questions?
So you're not adding any parking, you're getting, parking's being taken away basically because of DOTD.
With this one caveat, as Martin indicated, a dumpster, it does a
Yeah.
fruits and vegetables, we gotta put in a dumpster pad.
Mhm.
And so we're gonna have to take out a tree or some underlying brush to do what needs to be done. And that's an enclosed dumpster pad accordingly, so.
Yeah. Any other questions?
To be honest, I'm having a hard time trying to, we're talking about a lot of things here, lots of moving.
Yeah, I wish we were there.
I think a final landscape plan, do we have something of that nature that we can look at this?
We submitted a landscape
Is that
plan.
this one?
That's this one.
This one?
Yeah.
What we don't have, I think might be your point, is we don't have a composite landscape plan that speaks to what we just talked about. But we would be glad, I think I mentioned that, we'd be glad to get with our landscape architect and kind of surmise what we talked about and submit that.
Right. I mean, I'd like to give you the variance, I'm just not sure how to word it right now, to give you what you need where you need it.
I used to sit on the Board of Adjustment, and I remember the last city council meeting in Baton Rouge. The mayor said, Mr. Jones, what is it that you need? And what Martin just said is what we need is a building permit. The rest is minutia. We just need to figure out what we need to do to get a building permit.
Right.
I just want to point out that I don't want to eliminate landscaping from the front of the building.
Okay,
I want to actually make it nicer.
right.
I just don't want to take away those spots in the front.
Right.
Oh, we understand.
Especially.
We
when
understand
it's-
that.
That's a hardship, we get it.
It is,
Yeah.
because you will have an indoor dining as well,
Right.
right?
I mean, we have an
It's not just a
attorney on
deli.
our, we can't get the wording right, come on.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I know.
Come on, Tom, you're on the press.
Yeah,
We just
We
don't
miss
know
our
how to
problem.
word it. I
Okay.
think we're all in favor, it's
right,
just
right.
based on this discussion, I think it's.
Could it be contingent on a final landscape plan?
I don't know if we have that right.
That would be good verbiage, except we don't want to have to come back before the VOA or the city council. We need to have maybe a staff level workaround.
Excuse me, you may be able to make your motion simply to reduce the required, just like you do for setbacks, you could reduce the required.
For their
street
landscaping.
sweeping in the front, and if you were okay with eliminating in the back or whatever, just reduce it.
If
There's
we-
no required on the side.
Okay. Well, if we reduced it in the front from 15 to 5, but took you up on the offer to have some landscaping on the south side that would otherwise not be required, and excused the requirement in the rear,
I think that maybe, just trying to wordsmith this, I think the staff recommendations were fine. Martin indicated there was landscape beds in front of the building. That
And-
we
yeah.
utilize that
You will.
in lieu of.
okay, that's
Does that
fine.
make
Are those 5, I think you had referenced those as being about 5 feet?
Yeah, it's probably even more, but it's even longer. It's like
Okay.
it takes up the whole front of the building, the pad.
Okay.
I just don't know exactly how wide it is.
Okay,
But
All right.
it pretty much takes up the whole front of the building, the pad that's currently there.
okay.
It has a few trees and
So-
dirt right now.
That's correct.
So rather than reducing it, we simply
Enhance
substitute
it.
that in lieu of it.
Right.
Right.
And that way I could keep the front parking, and then I'll still have nice plants in front.
I'm okay with the back not being landscaped, there's no through street,
Right,
Correct.
I would agree.
Yeah,
so.
I would agree. You want to word?
So could we do this? Could we make a motion to approve the variance, subject to the following, that the current landscape or planter in the front of the building that you've indicated runs the width of the building, remain in place and be planted, used as a planter, that there also be landscaping on the south side of the building, which I think Mr. Jones had suggested you all would do. That's the south side, that's the drive that gets to the back, I think. And then excuse any requirement of a landscape ordinance in the back.
That's fine.
That's my motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Huval?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Good job. Okay, so, what did I do with my thing? What is this, for two? Okay. Number 2 on the docket is case number 23-06-09 BOA, a variance request from Appendix B Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, Part 3, Use Districts, Section 3.14, RM2, Multifamily Residential, 3.1406, Performance Standards Number 3, Lot Depth B, reduced from 140 to 120 for proposed Lot A, B, C, and D in Square 26, City of Covington, Parish of St. Tammany. The variance request is in conjunction with a proposed subdivision request to re-subdivide Square 26 into lots A, B, C, and D, each lot measuring 120 by 120, and each lot containing 1,400 and 400 square feet. The property has the municipal address of 711 South New Hampshire Street, Covington, St. Tammany Parish. Pending approval of this variance, the petitioner intends to apply for a subdivision of this property. Okay, so we seem to have a lot of interest here. First person is Joe Brown as the petitioner. Mr. Brown, would you step to the mic and state your name and your address, please?
Hello, my name is Joe Brown, address 300 Bordeaux Court, Madisonville.
Okay, so you want to tell us a little bit about your petition?
Yes, that was the old Hampshire House property. I've owned that since 1997. And of course, we had some damage, ended up tearing the property, down, demolished the building. And now we wanted to put, as in the request, 4 equal lots for residential. I understood from the planning office that I would have to possibly do a zoning change because it is RM2, I think, right now, which would be multifamily. And of course, if we had to, we would change it to single family. But I thought I had to get the variance for the lot before I could ask for the zoning change. But
Okay.
that's the plan, 4 houses. Okay. So that's what I'm
We're
hearing.
all learning. Go ahead. Any commissioners have a question before we go on to other people?
I guess the dilemma is that if we grant the variance right now that allows you to then get it subdivided into 4 lots, the zoning is still going to be, for some period of time, the RM2, which would allow it to be developed as multifamily or duplex,
Right.
whatever would meet that.
Garden homes.
And of course, that's
Townhome.
not the intention, of us. In the application, I put, single-family residence. However, if I'm granted the variance, I'll go put that application in tomorrow for the zoning change.
To zone it to
Single family.
Right.
So you'd be okay with us granting the variance, subject to the requirement that it be rezoned,
Yes, sir.
single-family residential?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're going to go on to other citizens, and then we might bring you back up in a little bit. Second one is Mike Gilly. Thought might be. Mike Grimion.
We might be arguing the same point. I'm Mike Grimion, and I live at 617 South New Hampshire in Covington, across the street from this property. My wife Phyllis, we've been there for 20 years, over 20 years. And I can't speak for everyone in our neighborhood, but I bet you I can speak for 99% of them. We would all be in favor of y'all granting the variance, provided they are residential one. Because multifamily in that neighborhood just doesn't really lend itself. And if Joe is willing to do that, have it rezoned residential, we're all on the same page.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Grimion. Rick Meyer?
Rick Meir, 906 South New Hampshire. You're going to hear the same thing over and over. If it's R1,
It's
120 seems acceptable. I wouldn't see subject to, I would say only if.
That's what we're going to have to worry. Todd? Richard? Or is it Richard? Okay. Iris Gallatin? Ditto, okay, I like that, short and sweet. And Roland Gallatin is. And can you step to the mic? So you're thinking maybe it should be the other way? The zoning should be first and the variance second?
I'll change my statement to a question. What assurance does the community get that if the variance is granted, something won't happen to prevent the zoning from occurring?
The variance will be granted and only effective upon the change of the zoning.
You've answered my question.
I mean, I would be the motion,
If
right?
that's-
Yeah, it's a
Right.
condition.
That would be the motion.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's a contingency.
Why, do you have, yeah, is there a concern about,
I'm not sure if you can base your variance on a zoning.
on a zoning change?
I want to bring in an expert. He wants to say a few words, please.
Sure. Steve Villavasso, planning and zoning expert hired by the city of Covington. I can't give you a legal opinion because I'm not here as a lawyer tonight, and our city attorney is not here tonight. But I will tell you from a planning perspective, contingent approvals are not appropriate.
Okay.
I can't go as far as to say they're not legal. I'll leave that to Mr. Rodriguez to say they're not legal. I don't think they're enforceable from a planning perspective. But be that as it may, I would like to give a little bit of history about this piece of property, since I do have some direct knowledge about it, because my firm was involved with the city of Covington when the zoning was changed about 20 years ago under Mayor Watkins' term. And this parcel of land obviously was in use at that time as the Hampshire House, and it is surrounded by RS2 zoning. Single-family 2 zoning is completely surrounding it. And the issue 20 or so years ago was, should that parcel be zoned RS2, or should it be zoned in accordance with how it was being used at that time, which was determined to be RM2. The decision was made by the council at that time to zone that parcel as RM2 to establish what was going on there. Now, fast forward to today, we know we have a blank piece of property. It's zoned RM2. It's completely surrounded, or almost completely surrounded by RS, single-family residential zoning, RS2. What can you do on RM2? I think this is pertinent to what we're talking about today. RM2 is multiple family zoning 2, and this parcel of land could be developed into an apartment complex with 16 dwelling units tomorrow by right without getting any approvals, any votes, or anything, by right. If the re-subdivision was granted, if the variant, we have three balls in motion here. We have a variance, we have a re-sub, and we have a potential rezoning, okay? All we have tonight is a variance. If the variance is granted, then the property owner would have the right to move forward with a re-subdivision application based on the new lot size that the variance would grant it to put 4 lots on the RM2 parcel. If those two pieces fell into place, variance granted, subdivision granted, then the density by right would drop from 16 units to 8 instantly, because you'd have 4 lots in a RM2 zoning, and you could only put 2 units on each one. So we dropped from 16 to 8. Now, if a rezoning was put on the table, and the council and the planning commission, of course, you all have nothing to do with the rezoning, that's why you really can't cross the streams, as they would say in a Star Wars movie, okay, or in a Ghostbusters movie. If the rezoning gets put in place, well, then 4 single-family parcels would go there, okay? So we'd have 16, 8, or 4, depending on the combination of approvals that are granted, okay? If nothing happens, a 16-unit apartment complex goes there. If you grant the variance and the re-subdivision comes through the planning commission, and that would be almost an administrative re-sub, it would almost be granted like that, because it would really just be drawing 4 lines on a piece of paper. Then the density drops to 8. If a rezoning would follow that, the density would drop to 4. So that's the context.
Why can't the zoning come first? That's their intention.
I'm sorry, you're not answering me a question.
His intention was to make it single-family residence, so why doesn't he zone it first and then come to us for a variance?
Mr. Gremion?
Would it be possible to table it until it gets rezoned and then come back and visit it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could.
I mean, it sounds like we're putting the cart before the horse here,
Yeah,
so.
that's what,
I think you could. I mean,
I don't know, Joe, would you be okay
if
with
I,
that?
you know, if I was the owner, I'd want to know that if I do that, you know, if I'm going to do that, then I want to make sure that I'm going to get this. I mean, I understand your concern and your perspective as well.
I need you to come to the,
Oh, I think you got to come up there, so.
come to the mic, yeah. We have a new system, but you have to talk into it so that he can catch it for you too.
Well, I understand Mike's concern, no problem, but I just thought that the process I went through, I had to do the variance first, or I would have done the zoning first.
Okay.
So why can't we just we here for the variance and then predicate it on me doing
But
the zoning? I got the applications ready to
Ellen,
go.
is
Just
that,
Ellen knows
is that
that.
right, or do you?
No.
No, I don't
No.
think so.
I think
No,
the
you just
time limit
explained
is
it.
How far you can, how many days you can,
Speak into the mic.
I'm sorry, I have to get used to that too. I think there's a time limit as to how long you can table something for, and rezoning would have to go before the zoning commission as well as the council. So that would be quite a while, probably 4 months, 5 months.
4 months?
Well, you have to advertise for the zoning commission, then it has to be heard, then it has to be recommended to the council, and then advertised, and then put on the council's agenda, and then voted on by the council. So it takes quite a while. Zoning changes are important. They have a lot of detail.
May I say something about this? So this is what could happen. We understand that you wanted single-family residence. We do understand that. And we would permit that we do the variance and we want you to do the zoning, but the minute the variance goes through, you could sell those. And then it's out of your control.
Well, I mean, if you can tie
So
it where I.
you understand that why, that's why
Yeah,
people
no
are
problem.
concerned.
No problem.
I think we all
What-
want to do the right thing for the neighborhood, but we want to make, as everybody as happy legally as possible. This gentleman behind you wants to say something. You step to the mic and just say your name again, please.
Roland Gallatin, 530 South America Street. Based on the comments we've just made, I would object to the variance being granted. And the question that Ms. Williams asked is the question that I was going to ask. If the property is rezoned, nobody has any problems, why can't the rezoning come first. There's an additional complication, which I didn't mention before because it looked like everything was going smoothly, but now it has become very relevant. The city of Covington does not have a written notice provision for variances. They follow the custom and procedures that were laid out or established by Nikita Bagby. That's a gross inadequacy on the part of the city of Covington and its ordinances. It has a notice provision procedure or a notice provision for re-subdivisions. So what we have here is not a simple variance, like I want to build my garage 3 feet off the property line instead of 10 or whatever, and it's connected to my house. What we have here is a variance that is connected to a re-subdivision. So if it is connected to a re-subdivision, why aren't the surrounding property owners given the notice that a re-subdivision requires? And we were not. No one, a re-subdivision requires certified letters to be mailed to all the people in, I don't know, something like 120 yards or some radius. So for those reasons, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the subdivision application has not been applied for yet. Mr. Brown told me that he wanted to make sure he got a variance before he proceeded. So that's why, because there hasn't been a subdivision application actually applied for.
No, I understand, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if the objective is to put people on notice, okay? Hey, this is about to happen in your neighborhood. You have a right to know, and you have a right to say something about it, okay? Well, if it's a re-subdivision, then the notice requirements for re-subdivision should apply, and they have not been implemented. And this is a variance that is an integral part of a subdivision, a re-subdivision.
It hadn't been applied for yet. There's no notice.
That's
It
why
hasn't
the
been
notice
applied
hasn't
for
gone.
yet. That's why there's no notice.
But I understand that the re-subdivision has not been applied for, but on the sign, it says variance for re-subdivision.
Oh, okay.
So,
It's
Mr. Balbo.
misleading.
I would just add, I would reiterate what you just said, Mr. Himes. This is not a re-subdivision. A re-subdivision has not been filed. The word re-subdivision may well be on the sign, but I would say that does not suffice any type of notice provision for the re-subdivision, because remember, this body has no authority whatsoever over re-subdivision. We have to change the venue, go to the planning commission, a whole new application, public notice, public hearing, and go through the process for the re-subdivision. And if that is, and then the rezoning is not here either. The rezoning goes to the planning commission and the council, because the rezoning is a legislative matter. So we bring another branch of government into this discussion when a rezoning is involved, and that's why we have the notice provisions where it takes 3 months for the rezoning. We do have the cart before the horse here, or the horse, whatever that is.
Hang on one second, Mr. Grimion. This gentleman in yellow, if you'd step to the mic and state your name and address, please.
Good evening. I'm Teddy Barketing at 324 East 15th Avenue. And I think I understand most of the issues here, and I've had some experience at this, but there are so many chickens and so many eggs here, it will not be solved at this level. It seems like the petitioner and maybe some of the residents should be meeting perhaps with the city attorney, the mayor, and a representative of the council, because I believe until that happens, the petitioner is going to be at a loss at really where he should go with this. And certainly it's going to be a certain amount of understandable mistrust on the people in the neighborhood. But there has to be some kind of advanced consensus, because I think eventually it's going to have to get to the council level, which I believe has the power to make that decision overall based on all of these things somehow put together. Maybe a recommendation as opposed to a decision by you.
Well, it sounds like everybody in here is on the same page in terms of what you want, and that is
Until
4
those
lots on this
conditions-
block.
Until those conditions fail the test.
Procedurally, the question is,
Right,
how do you
right.
get there?
And that's my recommendation, is that if there's a possibility procedurally for you to make a decision for a recommendation rather than a decision, because you can't apparently make a decision tonight based on how the petition is presented.
Well, I mean, I guess we could make a decision, but as far as we could go would be to limit or change the density from 16 to 8 by approving.
Correct.
One,
And that would,
you need the re-subdivision,
right, that's what I'm saying, the chickens and
Yeah.
the eggs and
Yeah.
the
We
the
can't-
mistrust that would develop, which there wasn't any, I don't think, coming in here. And I don't think it's being created by the petitioner. It's because of the complexities of the process. And until several players get into the same room and talk about those, we're going to be chasing the chickens and
Still
the
gonna have
eggs all night.
we're still gonna have the procedural issue, it seems to me, because you can't go get it re-subdivided into 4 lots until you get the variance. That part, right? That's clear. That's the way that sequence would have to work.
This is a highly unusual.
Because it would be an illegal lot. And you can't approve a lot that violates the law of Covington unless a variance had already been granted to allow a variance from that lot width, the lot length.
This is a highly unusual situation, and my question, I guess, is whether the council, considering all of those complexities, when they're laid out for all of the parties involved, I assume they have a power to even enact an ordinance about a particular situation such as this.
No.
This is an independent board. The
That's
council
why
has
we
no
need
authority
counsel.
over this board.
That's why we need counsel.
Council can't do
They
anything.
can't
Well,
do
they
it.
could
The Board of
advise.
Adjustment is an independent board that does not report to the council, nor does the council report to the Board of Adjustment.
So are you saying that the council has no power over other administrative
Over the Board of
boards?
Adjustment, it has absolutely no power over the
They
Board of
would not
Adjustment.
have the power to make a decision about something like that?
Regarding matters before the Board of Adjustment, a variance, the council has no authority whatsoever.
Well, I have a hard time believing that some kind of amenable solution to this can't come at some level of government in the city of Covington, and that we can't say that this can't be done because of all these, pardon me, these cross purposes. That sounds absurd to me.
Well, I mean, I think it can be done.
Right,
In the right order.
But you all want it done at one time.
right.
And that may be where the,
And the stakeholders need to figure out a way to make that happen, but it's probably not going to happen tonight.
right.
So the current owner
Mr. Brown.
wants to sell the property. That's what this is all about. He doesn't want to sit on it, but if he owns it as it is right now, multifamily, and right now, he could build 16 apartments on it. Period.
Correct.
But he's motivated to sell. He wants to sell. So I just think the best way to do this is to start with the zoning and work our way down to this variance.
The man in, hang on, Mr. Grimion, the man, oh, okay. But he's giving you his voice, Mr. Grimion.
I just wanted to say that I've spoke with Rick Smith, I spoke with Mark Barrett. I got phone calls back from both of them. They checked with Rod, city attorney. The entire, from what I understand, the entire city council is on board with this. Joe Brown's on board with it. All the neighbors are on board with it. It's just a situation, it's not in the right order. I would just make a recommendation, and also, correct me if I'm wrong, but if the city council wants to, they might be able to rush through a rezoning instead of having to wait 6 months or whatever you were saying. They might be able to do something a little bit faster to help us out, because, I mean, this is an opportunity we don't want to miss, okay? So,
Could it be done this way? Could we grant the variance subject to the property owner's agreement to impose a restrictive covenant on that property? That doesn't involve zoning, it doesn't involve,
It's creative, but I'd have to give it a F on my exam. No.
Yeah, no?
Can't do
all
that.
right?
Don't want to mix those restrictions in here.
I just know Mark Barrett's out of town this week, and Rod's out of town this week, and I guess maybe revisit this after the zoning and see if we can rush the zoning through some kind of way?
Ellen, would
How
you
long did you say it would
step to
take?
Speak into the mic and say how the zoning process works with time.
So the zoning process, the first thing it has to do is go before the zoning commission. So by statute, we have to advertise 3 times prior to the zoning commission.
Is
meeting
that
date.
3 months?
3 times, so once a week.
Oh, 3
before.
weeks.
In the
Okay.
farmer.
Okay.
So that basically takes, you advertise 3 times, that's basically 6 weeks or so before the meeting by the time it's all done. So then, because he has to apply, we have to advertise. The deadline for applying is the first Friday of the month prior to the meeting. Okay, so we already aren't gonna be on the July meeting, you would be on the August, it would be on the August meeting for the zoning commission. Then the zoning commission would recommend approval or denial, and then that would go to the council. And my understanding from the council clerk is she has to advertise also a couple of times before it's introduced on the council's agenda.
And then it has to
And then
roll over
advertise
to the
again
following council
after the-
meeting, yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
to be approved.
And it's, there's a reason, it's important, zoning is important.
Mr. Gilly?
Thank you. Mike Gilly, 205 South Yankee. I think we're talking about, the timing you're talking about is going to be the same, even if this gets approved now. You still got a couple of months to wait till you can do what you want. So, I mean, I don't know. You said if this is granted now, we've automatically reduced the density from 16 to 8 right off the bat. But it's still not going to do anything to make your process any faster.
No.
But you said they can't do the subdivision without the variance. So what, I mean, it sounds like the variance has to be first, otherwise you can't do the subdivision. And there's no,
Zoning first, then variance, then subdivision.
okay,
Is that,
but,
Zoning assures the right.
Yeah.
Zoning, R1,
Well,
same.
it
Well,
would
I've
most
just
likely-
said, whether you do the zoning now or later, there's a 3-month window for zoning.
It doesn't matter.
Okay? It really doesn't matter, because if the intent is for single-family residential development, you gotta get the zoning done. Why not do it in the right sequence? It's 3 months now, or it's 3 months later, and the zoning won't be in place. You won't be able to pull a building permit until the zoning is certified by the council at the very last meeting. You know, we can squeeze in the variance, and we could probably do an administrative approval on the resub once the variance is approved. So there is a way to shorten that window. But the zoning, it's 3 months
No
because
matter
of the
what.
advertising. It's all about the advertising,
Yeah.
okay?
it
right.
sounds like that's what needs to
Just
be.
And
a
that's
simple
state law,
formality.
you can't, if you violate the advertising rules, somebody's gonna object and file a lawsuit, because that's a due process mistake, okay? And you don't want a due process mistake, because, that violates that whole set of laws.
So if Mr. Brown goes through the process and gets it rezoned first, which does seem like that's probably a good first step, then everybody here at least is committed to the idea that they're not going to oppose a variance, and they're not going to then oppose a re-subdivision, and
Well, I think you bring it back to you to approve the variance at the very first meeting after the zoning is approved, and then the resub at that point becomes administrative. We don't even have to bring that, because
Okay.
once the zoning's in place and the variance is in place, it's a paper approval on the resub. Doesn't even
Okay.
go back to the
Doesn't even
planning
go back,
commission. We
okay.
can save that meeting and shorten that period of time. But the zoning is 3 months, now or later.
either way, right?
There you go. Very good. So, do we make a motion to table
I think you
this?
table.
Table?
Because it's the table, I would suggest you table and let the application roll off the table when you bring it back off the table to save the applicant the refiling fees.
Good idea.
Okay.
Before I call for a motion, is there any other citizenry here who wishes to speak? Mr. Brown? No? Okay. Anybody else? Everybody nod your head if this is okay, right?
All right. All right.
We try very hard up here. Okay. So who's gonna make the motion?
I don't even know what to make the motion
Go
for.
ahead.
I make a motion to table this
Second.
variance.
I second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Huval?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
All right, final case on the agenda. Oh, don't leave, the fun's just getting started.
Everybody's going for the LSU game.
I'm sorry. Okay, the final case for tonight is case number 23-06-11, BOA, requesting variances from Appendix B, Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance Part 3, Use District, Section 3.8 RSL, Single Family Residential. Did I already read this one? No, I'm reading the wrong one.
Wait, which one?
This is the,
Which case am I on?
you were on the,
Number 3.
No,
10.
10,
10, right?
no.
GGG Property LLC.
Which is that, 3?
Number 3.
I'm on 3?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so case number 23-06-10, requesting variance from Appendix B, Comprehensive Zoning Ordinances, Part 4, General Provisions, Section 4.208, Landscaping and Tree Preservation. All street planning requirements be eliminated along West 21st Avenue and also along Tyler Street, allowing the current previously non-conforming landscaping area along West 21st Avenue be permitted to remain. Said property has a municipal address of 719 West 21st Avenue, Covington, Louisiana, and this is at the corner of West 21st and North Tyler. Mr. Guzan?
Good evening. I'm Ricky Galloway. I'm with High Tide Consultants here representing Mr. Gazan tonight.
Okay, state your address, please.
706 West 21st Avenue, Suite B, Covington.
Oh, you're the neighbor, okay.
Office is just down the street. As stated, we're here tonight to request a variance from the street planning requirements for this existing property, located at the corner of West 21st and Tyler. Everybody knows this little Sombrero restaurant, or even further back, the old Tom Saver store way back. The proposed project of this property is to basically take the existing building as it is and totally renovate the existing building to keep the existing footprint as it is. Also keep the parking lot more or less as it is with some improvements to it, including adding some landscaping, particularly along Tyler Street on the side, and I'll explain that a little bit more later. But the reason for the request is, again, we're keeping the existing building footprint as it is, converting from a restaurant to in-and-out urgent care. It's going to be the proposed use. And the change in use is what triggers the potential requirements to meet the new landscaping ordinance. My understanding was that if the use stayed the same, somebody could come in there with the restaurant and, not have to change any landscaping or parking or anything like that. So what we're going to do, again, is renovate the building. We're actually going to reduce the parking from 22 down to 20, which is what we need for medical office use. But in order to keep the parking spaces, size and depth that we need, the drive aisle sizes that we need, we can't expand the existing street planting areas that are there along 21st and along North Tyler. So we're planning on leaving the street planting along 21st as is, but redoing it, planting new shrubs, rejuvenating it. The area along Tyler Street, North Tyler, would actually expand the amount of landscaping that's over there now. Right now, there's a small, about 6 foot wide by about 15 foot square area along Tyler. We would extend that from the front of the building all the way down to West 21st and widen that, adding over 300 square feet of landscaping along that edge. So we're asking for a variance from the new current requirements, but we're still adding more than what's there today.
And can I ask a question? You're reducing the parking from 21 to 20?
I think it's 22 there now to 20,
22 to
but 20 is what's required for the new use of medical office.
Is that what's creating this extra space to landscape?
Not really. What's creating the extra space to landscape is, if you're familiar right now, there's a driveway that comes out onto West 21st, kind of on the west side of the property. And then there's also a driveway, you can go along the front of the property and come out onto Tyler, which is really a bad spot. We're going to close that off.
Ah, I got you.
And so you can come in that same west driveway, come into the front of the building and park, and you can either leave out of that west driveway, or we're gonna have one-way circulation clockwise around the back of the building to get out around the back on the Tyler. What that does, it allows us to close off that driveway on the Tyler, I think creating a safer traffic situation, but we're gonna landscape that area when we do that. And some of the parking we're losing, the other thing we're doing is right now, there's, I think, 6 parking spaces on the Tyler Street side that kind of head in into the building, that actually half on our property, half in the right of way. We're actually doing away with those spaces that stick out into the right of way, and just instead of having 6 head-in spaces, we're gonna have 2 parallel spaces that are totally on our property. So we're pulling that's some of the loss of the parking, is we're pulling those out of the right of way.
How many employees will be parking there on a daily basis?
I think on a daily basis, they have anywhere between 3 and 7, depending on.
So
the
you'll have
peak
plenty of
times.
parking for
Yes, ma'am.
your business.
Mr. Kazan's done several of these around the area, and, he's comfortable with 20 parking is plenty from his previous locations.
The night people, you said 24 hours, right? You're gonna be open?
No, ma'am, it's not, I'm sorry, no.
Oh, it's not 24 hours?
It's not 24 hours. no,
Okay,
ma'am.
okay.
Regular business hours.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question that's off topic. Are you gonna leave the tower, or are you gonna take it off?
They are taking most of the tower off.
Oh, well.
They're still gonna have somewhat of a raised corner there, but not as high as it is now.
Yeah. I think what you proposed, if I understand it correctly, sounds very well and good, because I can't tell you the number of wrecks I have seen with people, and when it was a restaurant, backing out onto Tyler Street and then, hitting somebody or something like that. So you've evidently studied the flow.
Yeah, I think it'll create a better traffic
Right,
circulation flow there, and the ability to add a little bit of landscaping on that corner. I think it'll make it nicer, and, that building needs to be redone. It's been sitting there like it is a long time, so.
Yeah,
Is that intersection destined to become a circle anytime soon, or did I misread?
I mean, I think there's plans way down the road, but,
Yeah.
it's nothing
No,
in right there that I know of. There's a lot of right-of-way issues there on really all corners, but especially the southwest corner going into that shopping
Yeah.
center, it drops off, and
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot of challenges there to do a roundabout.
Anybody, any other questions?
I'm good.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this variance request. Right here, a second?
I'll second that motion, yes.
Roll call?
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Huval?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry the tower's leaving. So. Okay, so the last thing on the agenda is any other business from Ellen? No? Are we all completed with our extraneous training? No. Okay. All right, so on that note, we'll just leave it and I adjourn the meeting.
I'd like to make a motion that Rod cannot be missing.
No more
I
vacation.
can make a motion. I second that.
All meetings he missed. No, you did
We
great.
did fine without Rod.
You did.
You were great.
It's just.